Hello everyone, welcome to Deeksha online classes. Today we are having the fourth lecture of animal diversity. Today we are starting chordates. But before we start chordates, a quick recap of what all we have already studied. So we have first of all finished kingdoms. We saw kingdoms are of 5 types, namely Monera, Protista, Mycota, Animalia and Plantae. Then we understood that Animalia or animals are in general divided into two groups, non-chordates and chordates. And in the earlier classes we have completed chordates. They are as follows: Porifera, Coelenterata, Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Hemichordata. So till here we have finished, children. I hope you understand these. I hope all your doubts are clarified till now. We are today going to understand chordata. Chordata are further classified into Urochordates, Cephalochordates, and Vertebrata. Vertebrata is also known as Craniata because of presence of brain brocks. We will be covering Urochordates, Cephalochordates, and then we will subclassify Vertebrata into two types based on presence of jaws, such as Gnathostomata and Agnathostomata. Meaning to tell, stomata means mouth, gnatho means jaws. So agnatho, no jaws. So under Agnathostomata we have only one type. So further, Gnathostomata is subclassified based on the locomotory organ Pisces, which also we will be doing today, which is subdivided as chondrichthyes and osteichthyes. And the second classification under this is based on tetrapods, which includes amphibians, reptiles, aves, and mammals. In today's class, we will start off from chordates, complete Urochordata, Cephalochordata, Vertebrata, do Agnathostomata and Gnathostomata, move on to Pisces, complete chondrichthyes, osteichthyes, and then we will stop our class with amphibians. In the next session, we will cover up reptiles, aves and mammals. So let's start with today's class. So the first thing we are going to understand is General characteristic of chordates. Like any other organism, even in chordates we have to describe its habit. Habit exhibits organ system level of organization, meaning all the organ systems are very well developed. After that, we also understand that these are bilaterally symmetrical organism with triploblast. By now, I hope every one of you have understood the meaning of bilateral symmetry, where the body can be cut only in two halves. Triploblastic organism means there are three germ layers such as ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. So, as I was telling, they have organ system level of organization. Cephalization is very important. We saw cephalization started off in case of Arthropoda. After that, it was lost during evolution. If you see in Echinodermata, there was no head like region, but again it came back in Chordata. Endoskeleton is very important. It is generally of two types. Either it is made up of cartilage or of bones. So, it is a very important part. All the chordates exhibit closed circulation. Now, this is again very important. Last time we discussed closed circulation, it was Annelida. From Arthropoda, moving on to Mollusca, Echinodermata and Hemichordata exhibited open type of circulatory system. In here, we have closed type. You might have a little doubt on what is open type circulatory system and closed type circulatory system. Understand very clearly that if there is a tube like condition through which the blood is moving, then it happens to be closed type. And if you have an open drainage like system where the blood gushes and it washes off all the body parts, then it is called as open circulatory system. Then we move on to digestive system, which is complete, meaning it started with mouth and ended with anus. The last point is that post-anal tail is present. We also belong to chordates and we do not have a tail, but we do have a small tail bone called as cochlegeal bone, which is present. So, post-anal tail is an important part which is present in all chordates. Moving on, we can see how this tortoise is exhibiting bilateral symmetry. Now, this is very important for us to understand each and every part here, because you need to know the direction. The upper part of any body, this is the upper part, we call it as dorsal side. If I reverse the organism from below, if we see, it is the ventral side. If you see the head region, it comes as anterior side, and in the opposite end it is posterior side. Now, in our case, we have head which is anterior, leg which is posterior, back which is dorsal, and chest comes in ventral side. Many students get doubt that how can our back be dorsal. Now, understand that we all belong to a category called as tetrapods. So, assume if we human exhibit our body as legs and hands, then our back becomes the upper side, which is dorsal. I hope you are getting this point. And down this side is your chest and stomach and all, which becomes ventral. Since we are bifid, or we have two legs on which bipedal type of organisms we stand on two legs, we cannot understand easily which is dorsal and which is ventral, but understand it in terms of other animals. Say we are going to bend down and walk on hands and legs or crawl with it, then we understand our back is at the top and our chest region is in the bottom side, which is the ventral side. I hope all the terms are very clear to you all. So, these are certain organisms which come under chordates. So, you can see a variety of them come here. Whichever has a notochord, all of them come under chordates. So, moving on to the general characteristic, notochords are present on the dorsal side. This is very important. This is why I was more confined to the point that you understand what is dorsal, what is ventral. So, notochord is present on dorsal side. Which side? Back side in case of human. And exactly opposite towards the ventral side, what do we have? Towards the ventral side we have heart. Just not the notochord, even in case of vertebrates, only in case of vertebrates I am being very clear in this statement. In case of vertebrates, even the vertebral column is dorsal. So, in case of all chordates, what do you have in the dorsal side? Notochord. What type of column is this? This is a dorsal hollow nerve cord through which brain and spinal cord comes down. So, what type of cord we have here in case of chordates? Dorsal hollow brain and spinal cord comes down. Whereas, in case of invertebrates, this is in case of invertebrates, what happens is they have ventral solid, no hollow factor, solid nerve cord. So, this is a difference you can state here, that chordates have hollow nerve cord on the dorsal end, and in invertebrates we have ventral solid nerve cord being present. Moving on to the next habit, respiration, we have paired gill slits present near the pharynx. Question is, we are also chordates, but where is our gill slits? Yes, gill slit is a very primitive characteristic, so it is lost in the process of evolution, but we always throw back our older characteristic or evolutionary characteristic. Hence, in the fetal stage, when we are in the womb, at that time we can see gill slits near the neck region. So, if this is our neck, we can see the gill slits. As we grow up in the fetus, after approximately 5 months of the gestation period, these gill slits cover up and our lungs develop. So, I hope you are clear that every chordate must and should have gill slits near the pharynx. This is a picture of understanding a chordate. We have spoken about notochord, we have spoken about dorsal nerve cord. You can see both of them are on the dorsal side. This is our dorsal side, this is ventral side. So, both notochord and the nerve cord are on dorsal side. We have also discussed pharyngeal gill slits. So, you can see the gill slits being present in the red color it is shown. We have also highlighted one more characteristic, that is presence of postanal tail. So, you can see there is presence of postanal tail here. So, that much in this diagram. Let us move on. Ventral muscular heart with 2, 3 or 4 chambers. As I told, very important characteristic is we have notochord in the dorsal side. So, what is the part which will cover in the ventral region, that is in the front region, that is heart. Now, what type of heart? In humans you have 4 chambered heart. In birds also you see 4 chambered heart. Reptiles such as crocodiles and alligator have 4 chambered heart. But when we are seeing other reptiles, they have 3 chambered heart along with amphibians. And 2 chambered heart is seen in case of fishes. So, amphibians and reptiles exhibit 3 chambered heart, exception crocodile and alligator. Birds and mammals exhibit 4-chambered heart along with crocodile and alligator. Moving on to the next habit is excretion. From here on there is no confusion of the type of excretory system. All of them exhibit a pair of kidney being present as excretory organ which does osmoregulation. So, we have done lot of questions on osmoregulation. What does it balance? It balances water and salts, all the electrolytes. Moving on to the next characteristic, that is the limbs or locomotory organs. Some form exhibit fins, that is fishes. Some other forms exhibit limbs like humans. So, we can see here in this pic the 2-chambered heart seen in fishes, 3-chambered heart seen in reptiles, 4-chambered heart seen in crocodiles, birds and mammals. I would like to highlight to you all, observe this very clearly. This is the heart. How many atrium? 1 atrium. How many ventricle? 1 ventricle. So, 1 ventricle, 1 atrium together possesses 2-chambered heart. In reptiles, can you see that atriums are there separated very clearly, but on the other hand the ventricle is not completely separated. So, what can you see? Atrium here, which is right atrium, receives deoxygenated blood. Left atrium receives oxygenated blood. But when it is coming to the ventricle, can you see here mixing of blood is happening. So, mixing of blood happens or takes place in case of ventricles. This could be a question. Now, see the 4-chambered heart. How neat it is. There is no mixing of blood. So, this is your right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle and left ventricle. So, you can see there are 2 atrias and 2 ventricles, totally summing up to 4-chambered organisms. So, you can see the 4-chambered organism. One more pic here. You can see atrium, right and this is left. This is right ventricle and left ventricle. So, these are the images of 4-chambered heart. Moving on to the next criteria, that is classifying chordates. We can classify chordates as urochordates, cephalochordates and vertebrates. Uro, the word means tail. When the notochord is confined to the tail region, we call those organisms as urochordates. Cephala means head. When the notochord is present from head till the tail region, we call it as cephalochordate. Vertebrata, the word comes from vertebral column. So, along with notochords, which is generally present only in the fetal stage, it is replaced by another cord which is known as vertebral column, which carries or passes the brain and spinal cord. This is also called as craniata because of brain box being present, which is called as cranium. So, craniata or cranium being present, it makes it, so we call the vertebrata as craniata. Now, you will be wondering what is tunicata. You have heard about tunics, right? It is a dress, it is a covering. In these forms also it looks something like this. So, in tunics what do you have? You have the slits for the 2 hands to pass and rest is a dress. This is how even a tunicata look. This is the atrium, and this is the branchial stomata. That's it. These are the two opening we have in case of tunicatas, which is also otherwise called Urochordata, hence the name tunicates. So, I hope you have got these points very clearly. Urochordata or the notochord present in the ural region or the tail region, also known as tunicata because of their appearance. Cephalochordata, when the notochord passes from head till the tail region. Vertebrata, when the notochords are replaced by vertebral column. Brain is in the brain box, hence cranium or craniata is mentioned. Moving on, Urochordata and cephalochordata are called as protochordates. I remember you all asking me a lot of questions on what is protochordates. So, these are protochordates. What do you mean by proto? Proto means first. First formed chordates are called as protochordates. It is either called as first or primitive. You would have used this word protozoa, primitive animals or first formed animals. So, everywhere in biology, if you want to try and remember the words, the best way is to remember its meaning. So, half the words you learn off like that itself. So, protochordates, proto first, chordata, chordates. So, I hope it is clear. We move on. We will see one by one each of them now. Urochordates, we will go it in detail, but basic difference between urochordates to cephalochordate is how they are living. So, you can see both urochordates and cephalochordates are marine in habitat. They live in marine water. One of the students was once asking me that, ma'am, can these organisms take up the pressure or the salt condition or whatever the ambience is present in seas and oceans? Yes, they are made for it. Rather, if you take these animals and put in fresh water, they die. They cannot take up the external condition until and unless it adapts. Moving on to the notochordate, which is the notochords, which is the actual difference what makes these the phylum chordata get classified. So, here if you see, urochordate, notochord is present only in larval tail, whereas in cephalochordate, notochordate is present from head to tail throughout life. This is a very important difference what you need to understand. We called urochordate uro because of tail. Which tail? Larval tail. So, presence of larval tail, and in that tail there is presence of notochord during the larval stage makes it called as urochordate. But throughout the life, from head till tail, if there is a notochord present, we call it as cephalochordate. The third one what we had learnt is vertebrata. Vertebrata is one which we are present. So, we will go vertebrata in greater detail, we will subclassify vertebrata, but before that we will just see the general characteristic feature. Where do you find notochord? It is present in embryonic stage. What happens once the baby comes out? It is been replaced by a bony vertebral column. We all have vertebral column. Inside that vertebral column we have spinal cord. This part is being replaced, meaning to tell notochord was there which is being replaced by the spinal cord. If you see, since the dorsal side is taken over by vertebral column, we see in the ventral side heart being present. What are the types of heart? Just now we saw 2, 3 and 4 chambered hearts are present. 2 is seen in fishes, 3 is seen in amphibians and reptiles. And what about 4 chambered heart? We saw it in case of aves, that is birds, and mammals. Along with aves and mammals, we had 2 other organisms, crocodile, which is a reptile, and alligator, which is another reptile. These are modern forms of reptiles which have 4 chambered heart. We have paired appendages. What is appendages? Locomotory organ. So, these are locomotory organ. In case of fishes, we have fins. In case of amphibians, reptiles, aves and mammals, we have tetrapods. We have 2 hands, 2 legs, always paired in number. Moving on to the excretory system, as I have told, all chordates have kidney as excretory system. It helps in excretion and osmoregulation. So, we are going to balance. In one of the discussion classes in Impartus, I have also shown you how not only kidney but our lungs, skin, digestive system also become a part of osmoregulation. But the main function is done by kidney alone. So, can we state that all vertebrates are chordates, but all chordates cannot be vertebrate? Why? Because all vertebrates have notochord. Since it has notochord, I can tell it to be under chordata. But all chordates such as urochordate and cephalochordate does not have vertebral column, and hence it is not called as vertebrata. I hope this sentence is very clear. So, all vertebrates have notochord in their embryonic stage. Hence, we call them to be as chordate, but all chordates such as urochordate and cephalochordate do not have vertebral column. Hence, we call them as vertebrates. We can't call them as vertebrates. Let us see example under all three these criteria. Urochordate examples are Acidia, Salpa, Doliolum. Cephalochordate, Branchystoma, that is Amphioxus and Lancelet. We will see a pic of that in short time. Now, you will be wondering why we did not write vertebrata. Please write vertebrata and name any fish, say rohu, name any amphibian, say frog, name a reptile, say lizard, bird, say sparrow, and mammal, say human being. So, you can give any example, these all comes under vertebrata. So, let us do a very important question. I will be giving this question even as a homework question. Differentiate between chordates and non-chordates. 10 differences are there. When you come to first PU also, this question is very important and you will be given a 5-marker question, and hence 10 difference you should write. Let us read one by one each difference. Notochord or vertebral column is present in whom? Chordates. And non-chordate, the word itself is saying non. So, they are absent. Notochord and vertebral column is absent. What about central nervous system? CNS is dorsal and hollow. I just told you dorsal is the back side which is in the vertebral column. But when you come to non-chordates, when you are coming to say earthworm or say arthropoda, like that, central nervous system is present in ventral side and it is completely solid, it is not hollow. Pharyngeal gill slits for respiration is present in case of chordates. Sometime or the other in the life you will find it, but pharyngeal gill slits are absent in non-chordates. Again, let us give an example, it will brush up our old topics. If you remember Ctenidia is the respiratory organ in case of mollusca, and where is it present? Near the tail region. If you remember, the Ctenidia's diagram was something like this, feather like or leaf like structure. This is Ctenidia. It is present in mollusca near the tail. And where is our pharyngeal gill slits present? In the pharynx itself. So, we have at the anterior end, these invertebrates have it in the posterior end. Post-anal tail present 100%, post-anal tail absent in case of non-chordates. Moving on with the more number of differences, as I told, there will be about 10 differences. The fifth one says nerve cord is single, dorsal and without ganglia. If you can remember the earlier classes, name Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, the first word I used to tell is presence of a paired ganglion. So, here ganglia is present, ganglion singular, ganglia plural. Here ganglia is absent. These are dorsally present. We have already said it is dorsally present and it is hollow, whereas here the nerve cord is solid and ventral in arrangement. What about heart location? It is exactly opposite. Always remember one of them, you will remember the other easily. Or don't even remember, look at your own self. Where do you have vertebral column? In the dorsal side. Where do you have heart? In the ventral side. Now, where is heart present in case of invertebrates? They are present in the dorsal side because their nerve cord was present in ventral side. Now that these are having heart, they have blood. Question is, what type of body system do these organisms have? Some of them in case of chordates such as Pisces, amphibians and reptiles exhibit cold blooded condition, what I call it as poikilothermic, whereas warm blooded animal as homeotherms are aves and mammals. Homeotherms are also known as endotherm because they are managing the body temperature from within. Poikilotherms are also called as ectotherms because based on the external temperature, their body temperature will vary. When I do the next session in reptiles, I will be explaining you in greater detail how these reptilian forms hide themselves from sunlight and come out mainly once the sun is set, when the temperature is lesser. Otherwise, they cannot tolerate high heat condition as they are cold blooded animals. But when we come to invertebrate, there is no confusion who is cold blooded, who is hot blooded. Everyone are poikilotherms. Next point, paired appendages are there. So, how many paired appendages? 2. If you see, we all have 4 limbs, 2 hands, 2 legs, or 2 forelimbs and 2 hind limbs. So, there are 2 paired appendages. And in case of invertebrates, I can't give you a number. You have seen centipede, millipede. Have you ever counted how many legs they have? Arthropoda also, even insects, they have around 6 legs to 8 legs, varying from organism to organism. So, in general, if I have to tell, they have more than 2. So, there is a restricted number in case of chordates, there is no restriction in case of non-chordates. Difference number 9, blood circulatory system is closed in all forms. So, 100% closed type of blood vessels we see. But in case of invertebrates, it is generally open or closed or absent. Let us try to name. Open type is seen in case of Arthropoda and Mollusca. Closed is seen in case of Annelida. Others do not have. Porifera, Coelenterata, Ctenophora, all these do not have the circulatory system at all. So, they have 3 conditions: open, closed or absent. Last point to differentiate is reproduction. Since chordate are higher animals, they 100% reproduce sexually, whereas in case of lower forms, there is a mixture. If you look at Porifera, they also exhibit asexual reproduction, but saying that they also exhibit sexual reproduction. They mostly prefer sexual reproduction, but also have asexual reproduction. We do not have to go very far. In the last class itself, we learnt about Echinodermata can undergo regeneration. So, this is also a form of asexual reproduction. So, I cannot tell 100%, but I will say mostly they prefer sexual reproduction, but otherwise there is also possibility in certain forms to exhibit asexual reproduction. So, I hope all 10 points are clear, all 10 differences are clear. So, we are going to understand one by one each phylum. So, subphylum. So, the first one is Urochordata. These are also called as tunicates. Why? As I told you, because of its shape. Once more we will see the pic of it. So, it has two openings. One is the heart, which is called as atrium, and the other the mouth, which is called as branchial stoma. These organisms are non-motile and hence called as sessile. Other word for sessile is sedentary. Sedentary or sessile organism these are. Notochord is present only in larval tail. So, as we have told, the word uro signifies tail and notochord is present in this tail. Pharynx with stigmata being present. What do you mean by this? Stigmata. Have you seen stigma on a flower? What does it do? It is an opening for the pollen grain to go in. Now assume this is acidia where you have two openings, as I have told you. This is how it is. Now this is your branchial stomata. Obviously it will have cilia around its mouth. Why? To move the water. It lives in marine condition, I have already told. It moves the water. It brings the food near the mouth. So when the food particles come here, through a tube like system which is called as pharynx, the food enters. This is called as pharynx with a stigmata. Stigmata means mouth with cilia, which also have a tubular condition. So I hope this is clear. Yes, the second part I told you is heart. It is atrium. Now this word let's understand very clearly. These forms exhibit larval stage. So larva is there, meaning incomplete or rather indirect. So I'll repeat it, indirect development. Okay. Indirect development, when you say there is presence of larva. Question is, how does it look? And from larva to adult, when it is growing, how does it change? Surely there are changes. This process of change is called as metamorphosis. Change, metamorphosis. Morphosis is the morphological state, the outer looks of the animal. It is changing. What kind of change? If I do certain additions, then we call it as progressive. But if I am deleting certain parts, we call it as retrogressive. Now, I understand urochordates are not common animals that you would have seen. So, it is difficult for you to understand. So, I will take an example which you already know. You are aware of tadpole, the larval stage of a frog. When it is a tadpole, it has gills. When it is a frog, it does not have gill. So, the change, the metamorphosis which is brought from tadpole to the formation of frog, what is the change? That is removal of gills, deletion of gills. So, what type of metamorphosis is this? Retrogressive. Now, the same respiratory organ I am telling you. Frog has lungs, whereas tadpole don't have lungs. So, don't have to have, I am adding. What type of metamorphosis? Progressive. So, is it now clear that in case of urochordates, there are several organs which is present as a larval form, which is absent in case of a adult form. Let me give one example. We spoke about presence of notochord. Notochord is present in larva, absent in adult. So, here is the example of retrogressive metamorphosis. It is absent, it is deleted, removed. Examples are Herdmania and Acidia. Let us move on. So, here is the pic of her Acidia. You can see that very clearly you have two openings. One is branchial stoma and the other one is the atrium. So, this looks like a tunic and hence tunicata. Moving on to the next subphylum, Cephalochordata. Notochord extends from anterior to posterior and persists throughout life. This is the point which we have been specifying for quite some time now. So, always remember this Cephalochordata means the notochord starts from the mouth region and still the tail region, and it is there throughout larval stage and adult stage. Obviously, it also has heart in the form of atrium, but here, unlike urochordates, this exhibits progressive metamorphosis. I repeat, progressive metamorphosis means addition of certain features from larval stage to adult stage. Example, branchiostoma, amphioxus and lancelet. So, this is the pic of amphioxus. It is a standard image where you can see various parts. To start off with, locomotory organs such as caudal fin, the tail region. You can see very clearly the ventral fin. Digestion is complete because mouth region, rostrum you have, and the anus region is present. We can see more number of fins, dorsal fin also is there. We have spoken of presence of atrium. Can you see the position of atrium is there? Moreover, you are also seeing there should be presence of notochord. So, this is the region of notochord. And what else you should be seeing? Pharyngeal gill slits. So, this is the region of pharynx and you should be having gill slits around this region. These exhibit sexual mode of reproduction and hence gonads are also seen. I hope the diagram is clear. This is an example of cephalochordate lancet. The last form of subphylum we are going to study is Vertebrata, which comes under Craniata. Craniata means cranium. What is cranium? Brain box. So, brain box consists of brain, which is very important as it is a nervous system. Along with that, we have very well developed sense organs. As usual, there is presence of pharyngeal gill slit which numbers as 5 in number. It is paired. Then limbs are also paired appendages where we have 2 pairs, 2 forelimbs which is modified into hands in our case and 2 hind limbs which is modified as legs in our case. Other than this, the circulatory system is closed. As I told you, chordates, all of them have closed circulatory system, so there is no confusion here. Hepatic portal system is a very important addition in this form. We have liver connecting with the small intestine and also the blood vessel. So, this is a very important connection which has started only from vertebrates. So, we are moving on to the classification of vertebrates. As we have told, we will be doing today Pisces and amphibians. So, before moving on, vertebrates based on presence of jaw or absence of jaw is divided as agnatha and gnathostomatas. A or an in biology means no. Gnatha means jaws. So, no jaws is seen. Gnathostomata jaw, gnatha, stomata mouth. Mouth bearing the jaws is the two difference. Agnatha has only one classified form which is called as cyclostomata. Cyclo means round, stomata. So, the organism has a round mouth like sucker like mouth. Whereas jawed forms have two types, Pisces which has fins and tetrapod which has limbs. So, it goes to say that these are divided based on locomotory organ. Pisces are further divided into two types, chondrichthyes which has cartilaginous as endoskeleton and osteichthyes which has bone as endoskeleton. If you can remember back the points from earlier, Endoskeleton is a very important characteristic seen in case of chordates. Now, tetrapods are further divided mainly due to habitat. Amphibians live in both water and land. Reptiles live only on land. Aves live aerially in most cases. I am not telling of exceptions, but most cases. Mammals live in land, water, air and arboreal. What is arboreal? Arboreal are tree dwellers. Our apes come under arboreal forms. So, let us start by one. So, Agnatha and Gnathostomata. So, coming to Agnatha, as I told, only one form is there, that is Cyclostomata. Under that you have two examples, Petromyzon, which is also called as lamprey, and Myxin, which is also called as hagfish. So, what is the most important characteristic? It has no jaws. So, if it is not having jaw, what kind of mouth does it have? It has suctorial mouth because it is a ectoparasite. It is an ectoparasite and hence it has a suctorial mouth. Skin is devoid of scales. Why? It is slimy. If it is ectoparasite, it needs to stick on to the organism. If it is very rough or something which can be easily caught, it is easy for the fishes to escape from these organisms. If it is slimy, it can easily glide through and continue to be as a parasite. So, it is a parasitic characteristic to be slimy. Skeleton is cartilaginous. So, I hope you have understood Agnatha. There is not much we can speak about it. You can look at the pic of this. Look at the mouth region. You have a round mouth, suctorial mouth. Can you see this teeth like extension which helps in fixing to the host, because this is a parasite. You can look at the fins. It does not require much locomotion because fishes, as it swims, even these will swim along, but little bit as a movement it has some fins. So, moving on, Gnathostomata, I have already told, these are mainly meant to have jaws and two pairs of appendages. Skin is provided with exoskeleton. Say for example, we have nail and hair. Animals have fur, birds have feather. So, some of these are the types which is present in all forms, something or the other is present in all forms. So, we have Pisces, amphibians, reptiles and aves. So, moving on to Pisces, so we are just classifying based on whether or not it requires water. So, when an organism lays its egg in water, it is called as anamniotes, Pisces and amphibia. When the organism is laying egg or the young one in land, it is called as reptiles, birds and mammals. In short, if I have to tell, as these all in the early evolutionary time, if we have to go back and understand, life started in water. So, we can't escape water. So, some form or the other water has to be there. So, in case of Pisces and amphibians, if you look at the egg, it is not going to have amniotic fluid because they are giving birth in the water itself. So, no amniotic fluid. Whereas, reptiles, aves and mammals are of dry variety, because of which inside the egg there is amniotic fluid. You would have read in human reproduction that the fetus grow in the amniotic fluid which is present in the womb of the uterus. So, that is amniotic fluid. Okay, let us move on. So, supra class of fishes have three forms. First one, placodermi. Placo means bones, derma means skin. Skin has lot of bony exoskeleton. So, you can see these fins, these are all bony exoskeleton, very strong. It is very protective in nature. So, protective armor like it is there. Example, clematis. These are generally now extinct. The living forms are Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. So, let us understand one by one. Chondrichthyes, as I told you, are cartilaginous endoskeleton. Other than that also it has various differences when compared to Osteichthyes. These have placoid scales. So, what is the shape of placoid scales? If the scale looks like this, pointed, it is called as placoid scales. We have different types of scales. Once we move on to the Osteichthyes, there also we will see the shape of scale varies, but in case of Chondrichthyes we have placoid scale. Look at the position of the mouth. It is ventral, it is in the lower part, it is not in the tip but in the ventral part. We have cloaca. Now understand this cloaca, very important part it is. It is a common opening of respiratory reproductive parts, that is gametes actually comes out of these, especially in case of males, male gamete. It is also going to give out the excretory waste, so it is also a part of urinary system, and along with that it also gives out digestive waste. So, feces, all of these comes out together. From somewhere this end there is a cloaca present. Okay. Now, you have 10 pairs of cranial nerves coming from the brain box downwards in case of fishes. Air bladder is absent. Very important characteristic for a fish to have a air bladder which gives buoyancy. But we understand that chondrichthyes are olden form of fishes and more primitive forms, because of which air bladder is absent. It goes to say they have to continuously swim. They can't stop swimming or else they will sink. Males have claspers. Claspers are those parts which hold on to the female during copulation or during the mating time. So, claspers are those organs with which they hold to the female. These organisms are ureotelic, meaning to tell the excretory product is urea. Chondrichthyes lives in marine condition. Marine has lot of salt. So, already the electrolytic conditions in the water is so high that it cannot take in more amount of electrolytes in the form of uric acid or in terms of ammonia, because of which it exhibits to throw out urea instead of ammonia or uric acid. Uric acid generally is thrown when there is a completely dry condition. I would rather go and understand ammonia, because if you see, if the animals are growing in fresh water, ammonia is the one which is thrown out. Even while I was teaching you earthworm, I was very specific in telling that the excretory product in this case will be ammonia. Why? Because it liked aquatic lifestyle. But in case of marine forms like chondrichthyes, the salt is so high outside that it cannot throw out ammonia, it has to throw out urea. Some of the examples are Soliodon and Torpedo. Your shark comes under this forms. Let us see some more general characteristic of this subclassification Chondrichthyes. These are fishes, so no doubt they are poikilothermic or cold blooded animals. They need to swim, and as we already have come to know that there is absence of air bladder, so the body has to be streamlined. They have head, trunk and tail being present. There is absence of neck. Exoskeleton consists of mesodermal scales, meaning to tell the scales is originated from the mesoderm. There are 3 germ layers, as we have known. Triploblastic condition, mesoderm gives rise to scale, and these also have a bony plate like appearance. So, the scales are very hard. You should understand, just before this placodermy was there, where you saw exoskeleton to be of bone. So, even in this case we have a lot of hard factor. Some of them are scaleless, because again The reason is they are marine form. In such scenarios, there are slimy forms. Endoskeleton is made of cartilage. This is the name from where chondrichthyes comes. Skull is monocondyle. What is monocondyle now? Assuming this is a skull, and here starts the vertebral column. So, these are vertebral column one below the other. In humans, we have dicondylic, that is two things like this, it is bending and it is balancing. This is why you can turn your head left to right. But in case of these chondrichthyes, it is all covered into one condyle. Condyle means like this. So, since it is monocondylic, one condylic, the head cannot be turned on either sides. Vertebrates are amphicoelous. What is amphicoelous? We were just speaking of vertebra. In vertebra, one vertebra, say if it is concave from both ends, so one is this, again the next one grows to be like this. So, both sides are concave. 2 means amphi, always remember 2 means amphi. So, both sides are concave, then we call it as amphicoelous. Let us move on. Locomotion is assisted by unpaired median and caudal fin and paired pectoral and pelvic fin. As we have already seen, absence of air bladder. So, fins are the only support system they have for locomotion. They have 4 types of fins: pectoral, pelvic, median and caudal. Pectorals, in our case it is near hand. So, it is at the top, pelvic near the leg. Median somewhere in the center of the fish, and caudal is the tail fin. So, these are the 4 types of fins wherein median and caudal is single in number, pectoral and pelvic are paired. Mouth is ventral. I have already told the organ's mouth is like this in the lower end and not in the tip. Teeth are acrodont. How is acrodont present? Now, there are 3 types of teeth in organism. Assume this is a jaw, this is gums, and if the teeth is above acro, this is called as acrodont. Okay. Off topic, I am telling you there are other 2 types of teeth. One is like this. This is gums and this is the teeth. This is called as pleurodont. This is seen in case of reptiles, and we have thecodont. So, this is our teeth and ours is embedded like this. Where is gums? Gums is here. So, this is thecodont. So, understand properly here that acrodont type of teeth is seen in case of chondrichthyes, where the teeth falls many times and is regrown many times, which we call it as polyphyodont. What type do we have? We have diphyodont. Milk teeth falls, permanent teeth comes. Once permanent teeth falls, no other teeth comes back. But in case of reptiles, where we see pleurodont, and in case of fishes, where we see acrodont, teeth falls and regrows. It falls and regrows. But all the teeth are of same type. We have heterodont. We have incisor, canine, premolar, molar. In this case, all the teeth from first to last look same. How do they exchange gases? With the help of gills, as they are aquatic in nature. Who supplies oxygenated blood to the heart? Gills. Deoxygenated comes from heart to gills. I hope these points are clear to you. So, let us move on. Blood pumped to the gills does not return to the heart. It is directly passed to the body parts. This is very important. We are speaking fishes where there is 2-chambered heart. So, from atrium, blood goes to ventricles. From ventricles, blood goes to gills, and from gills, blood goes to body parts, and body parts to atrium. This is the flow direction. But blood flowing through the heart is always impure, hence it is called venous blood. Because from body part, when the blood is getting deoxygenated, that is when the blood moves to the atrium. So, it is always a venous blood because it is deoxygenated blood. I hope this circulatory system is very clear because it is two chambered type, so it is different. So, yes, here you can see there is flow chart very nicely made, heart to gills, gills to body part and then to heart. Now, how is the excretory system made? We saw scales were mesodermal in origin. Similarly, kidneys are mesonephric in origin. What is mesonephric? Mesonephric is again a mesodermal origin type. We have already discussed these organisms are amnotelic organisms where the egg is laid in water and there is absence of they give out one second. Yes, they lay their eggs in water and the excretory product is ammonia. In whose case? In Osteichthyes case. What about in case of cartilaginous fishes? It is ureotelic. In case of this, they are giving out urea. In case of Osteichthyes, they are giving out ammonia. Why? Osteichthyes are fresh water fishes. What about cartilaginous ones? They are marine fishes. I hope it is clear to you all. The only meninx enveloping the central nervous system is meninx primitiva. What do you mean by this? It means that the cranium or the covering of the brain is only of one type, that is arachnoid matter. So, arachnoid matter, pia matter and dura matter, these three matters are there in case of humans, but in these fishes there is only arachnoid matter and this is what we call it as meninx primitiva, a primitive form of meninx. Moving on, they have 10 pairs of cranial nerves and ear is only internal in the form of tympanic membrane. The outer ear pinna is absent. The system in fishes that help to detect the movement or vibration in the surrounding water is the lateral line of sensory system. It is important, so assume this is a fish. So, if you look at these fish, there is a central midline like this. This is your lateral line. That is the line which keeps up the fish in right direction. If it tends to turn or move up or down, if it is feeling any pressure difference, this line starts vibrating. These fishes are without eyelids because they are in water, they have a covering around the eyes, but they do not have eyelids like us human. In fishes, each eye is protected by a membrane called as nictitating membrane. You see this nictitating membrane in fishes, amphibians and reptiles. Sexes are separate, male and females are different. In some cases, we also see sexual dimorphism. That means male and females can be distinguished. Fertilization is either internal or external depending on the condition. Development could be direct or indirect. So, meaning maybe larva is there or no larval condition. So, two classes, Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. So, as I have already discussed, Chondrichthyes marine forms, Osteichthyes are freshwater forms. Chondrichthyes have cartilage as endoskeleton. If you look at the caudal fin, it is like this. The tail fin is this is how a tail fin looks. One is small, one is big. This is why we call different circle tail. What about the scales? The scales are plecoid. As I told, the plecoid scales look like this. These are predaceous forms. Shark we know is carnivorous. Respiratory tract has about 5 to 7 pairs of gills, which is without operculum. So, you can make out the gill slits open to the exterior. In case of Osteichthyes, the air bladder is absent and hence it has to keep swimming constantly. We have already seen Urea is the excretory product in this case. So, shark is the best example which maintains a balance of osmoregulation, hence the body fluids are isotonic. Outside to inside condition is well maintained. What do you mean by isotonic? When the concentration of salt within the body and outside the body is same, we call it as isotonic. So, we have seen that cartilaginous fishes have claspers which help them in copulation. They hold on to the females for fertilization. Fertilization is internal and these animals are viviparous. What is viviparous? They give birth to young ones. They do not give rise to eggs, they give birth to young offsprings or young progeny. So, it is a very higher type of organism. Some of the examples are Scolidion, commonly known dogfish, Bristus, commonly known sawfish, Carcharodon, great white shark, Dasyatis, stingray, Sphyrna, the hammerhead shark. So, stingray possesses a poisonous sting. This is a exceptional form, whereas electric ray has electric organ which can give mild shocks. Moving on to Osteichthyes, these are also aquatic and they have endoskeleton in the form of bones. Their tail is homocircle and the tail looks like this. Both the parts will be equal. Other than this, we see the lungs fishes, that is the difficircle type of organism. So, it has this kind of tail. So, I repeat, heterocircle means what we saw in case of Chondrichthyes has unequal tail. Homocircle means same type of tail in the same. Difficircle means single turn tail, so that till the tip the vertebral column can reach. This is seen in case of lung fishes and Latimeria. Exoskeleton has cosmoid, ganoid, cycloid and ctenoid. This is ctenoid types of scales. The shape varies like this. This is cycloid, this is ctenoid, ganoid and cosmoid. So, this is cosmoid, this is ganoid, ctenoid and cycloid. So, I hope this is also clear to you all. Mouth in these organs are generally in the terminal end and their gases are exchanged through 4 pairs of gills. There you saw in case of Chondrichthyes they had 5 to 7 pairs, in this case there are 4. Air bladder is present, so they do not have to keep swimming, they have a buoyancy measure. The product what they throw out as excretory waste is in terms of ammonia. These organisms are unisexual and hence they undergo sexual reproduction. Fertilization is 100% external and they are egg laying animals, hence they are oviparous. You can move on to the examples to see Exocetus, which is also called as flying fish, Hippocampus or the seahorse, Katla or Katla, Labio or Rohu. Katla and Rohu are Indian cultured fishes. So, we are culturing this fish for consuming. Okay, moving on. Clarius magur, Pterophylum angelfish, Echinus suckerfish, Betta fighting fish. Now, there is a very nice characteristic or fact beside the seahorse. These seahorse are ovoviviparous. What does this mean? I told you oviparous means egg laying, viviparous means young one is given out. In between this, because eggs can always be killed, eaten off, dried, desiccated, washed off, many things can happen. Viviparous, we have taken care of the baby for complete time and then we brought out. Ovoviviparous is in between condition. The egg is laid but then taken back inside the body and allowed to grow and then the young ones comes. In case of seahorse, females lay egg. These eggs are taken in brood pouch of males, just like a kangaroo pouch. Then the young ones come out after gestation. So, a very important characteristic. I hope fishes are clear to you. We are moving on to the last class, amphibia, for today. These are amphibious animals. They require two conditions, water and land. They exhibit a condition where exoskeleton is 100% absent, but they have mucilaginous covering which keeps the body moist. Mucilage as a covering, but exoskeleton absent. We are speaking of tetrapods. So, two pairs of limbs. In case of these organisms, if we see, they exhibit pentadactyly condition, meaning 5 digits, just like us. If you see our fingers, we have 5 digits, but they do not have nails or claws. They have webbed feet for swimming. Body is divided into head, trunk, but neck is absent. This is very important. In fishes also we saw neck is absent, here also it is absent. Organism is cold blooded, poikilothermic organism. Skin is moist. As I told, there is presence of mucilage, so it is moist skin. Mouth is large. They are included in superclass Tetrapoda because their main character is presence of two pair of limbs. So, two pair of limbs, which are they? Forelimbs and hind limbs. Eyes have nictitating membrane. We saw even this characteristic in fishes. And in fishes we had inner ear, which is called as tympanum, same in case of amphibians. Alimentary canal starts, its complete starts off from mouth and ends as cloaca. I have already explained cloaca as common opening for gametes, urine and also fecal waste. So, moving on, after cloaca we can see the pick of organism. You can see the eye region, you can see this region which is tympanum. Here also you can see this is the eye, nictitating membrane and tympanum. So, you can see the forelimbs and hind limbs. This is the head and the trunk. So, okay, moving on. Respiration is through cutaneous skin or pulmonary lungs or gills. Let us understand. You see cutaneous and pulmonary respiration in case of adults. When adult is in water, it exhibits cutaneous respiration. When adult is on land, it exhibits pulmonary respiration. Gill respiration is seen only in larval stage. Heart is 3-chambered, sexes are separate and they are egg laying organism. Fertilization is 100% external and the development is indirect, hence larva is present. So, in frogs we know the larval form is tadpole. So, you can see certain forms of amphibians. If I have to give you a fact based point, there are about 1.5 lakh species of amphibians present in just Western Ghats zone in India. So, you can think of variety of amphibians. So, these are the eggs of amphibians. You can see how the young one is growing and it is an external fertilization. So, it is on the leaves and swamp region it grows. Example, Beaufort toad, Rana frog, Hyla tree frog, salamander, Ichthyophis, the limbless amphibian. This is an exception. Here you do not see limbs, it looks almost similar to that of a snake. So, this is your Ichthyophis. Does not it look like a snake? This is salamander. So, morphology, as we have discussed, it is both land and water based animal. It is poikilothermic. It exhibits mimicry. So, it makes out sounds and just not sound, it also camouflages to the outer external surroundings so that it can catch hold of prey easily and escape from predators. They also do summer sleep because they can't tolerate too much of heat. They also do winter sleep because they can't tolerate too much cold. As you know, these organisms are poikilothermic and ectothermic. They want to maintain their body temperature. Skin is moist because of mucilage, smooth and slippery again due to the mucus which is present. Dorsal side is green with dark spot, whereas ventral side is yellow. Very specific characteristic of a frog. This is how we identify a frog from other amphibians. Body is divided into head and trunk. As we have said, neck is 100% absent. So, this is how a frog looks. You can see again the eye and tympanum, very important for us to understand. Okay, I hope you have understood the class, you have liked it, I hope, and still if you have doubts, we will meet in the online session after this. So, before I go into online session, I will quickly show you through the slides where we have questions. Origin of dorsal tubular nerve cord in chordatus: endodermal, ectodermal, mesodermal, ectoendodermal. Question 2, this helps in the filter feeding of urochordates: endostyle, urostyle, anal style and pygostyle. Which forms the chief distinguishing character of chordates: notochord, nerve cord, pharyngeal slits or postanal tail. Air bladder in Osteichthyes helps in food capture, digestion, hearing or buoyancy. Fifth question, chondrichthyes differ from Osteichthyes by the presence of terminal mouth, 5 to 7 pairs of gills, 2 chambered heart, air bladder. Chondrichthyes members have to swim continuously because they live in seas, live in fresh water, have no air bladder, have air bladder. 4 pairs of gills covered with operculum is seen in chondrichthyes, cyclostomes, osteichthyes or hemichordates. That is. Type of caudal fin in cartilaginous fishes is homocircle, difficircle, heterocircle or hypocircle. Lateral line system in fishes is balance body, helps in swimming, protects eyes, detects vibration in water. 10th question, viviparous fish among the following is hippocampus, betta, scolidion or katla. Question 9, amphibious flourished during the period of Devonian, Silurian, Jurassic or Carboniferous. Generic name of toad is Hyla, Bufo, salamander or rana. Generic name of flying fish is betta, Pterophylum, Clarius or Exocetus. Question 14, study of amphibian is called bacteriology, ornithology, ichthyology or entomology. Most commonly seen frog in India is Rana canrivora, Rana tigrina, Rana hexadactyla or Rana goliath. So, all the best students, let us meet in the online session.